Why do some people still believe Michael Jackson was innocent? IIRC. The FBI claimed they investigated him for a decade and found no evidence supporting the accusations. That's the most I've heard of it. Everything I've read about it leads me to think he was a traumatized weirdo who wanted to be a kid, not a pedo or someone evil. I watched a documentary called Square One, and it does an excellent job of breaking down the evidence that was actually used in a court of law. By the end of the doc, I was convinced he was innocent, based on the evidence used, even after thinking he was guilty all these years. The reason the doc was called Square One is because the first child was essentially coached into lying. The first child also still publicly supports Michael Jackson and even teaches his dance methods. The subsequent accusers all reference the first case as a part of his history of behavior. But the first case lacked merit, and that may have contaminated future cases in some fashion. I saw this on Amazon Prime, by the way. Premise: I don't care one bit about MJ or his music, to the point I could barely name or even recognize half of the tracks on his greatest hits collection. So the following isn't the biased defense of a devoted fan. Not in the slightest. He was surely a very weird cat. A child star who got exploited by everybody. Clearly he had issues, but their whole behavior reeked of rich damaged dude trying to relive his lost childhood. But as he had no frame of reference and a lot of money went for it in that unorthodox way, is it really hard to imagine parents being more than happy to send their child over to have sleepovers with a global pop star? Had it been Bubba the plumber asking that, he'd have been beaten to a pulp, no questions asked. Then is it really strange that allegations came up? Extortion is a powerful tool to wield against a celebrity. Hush money doesn't always mean guilty. It means paying to minimize the PR trainwreck. And most of the allegations have surfaced later on, when Jackson was dead, including a very one-sided documentary, bordering on hack piece, with former supporters suddenly and conveniently changing their tune. I guess dead man pays less than alive producers. The so-called evidence is hearsay or unverifiable, he said, she said, accusations. I mean, let's be honest. If you were a rich and famous person with a very bad habit, a career-killing one, would you basically turn your residence into a theme park to humor such vice? Or would you do it in a more subtle way? Epstein had his own island, but it didn't have a teen Playboy mansion with neon lights and signs. So, between the oddball with a dark past and a tenuous grasp on reality and the scheming wolf in goofy sheep clothes, I'm inclined to go with the former. Was he a very strange person? Yes. Did he have an unusual relationship with adulthood? Yes, seems like it. Would I as a parent let him supervise my kids and spend the night at his house alone? No way. Did he actually abuse kids? Not really enough evidence for me to conclude that with any certainty. The kids keep coming out saying the parents coached them into saying stuff for money. Plus, why would a parent send a child in that situation after previous claims unless they knew he was not going to hurt them and he had tons of money that they could exploit him for? Emo. Those first 2 points were actually proven to be false. But that's glossed over by the media. And they're consistently repeated as though they're true. Like here in this post. After 13 years of surveillance, the FBI found absolutely zero evidence of criminal activity. And because no one ever wanted to prosecute a criminal case against him, there is not one proven bit of factual evidence. If your child was raped, would you take some cash and run? Or fight to lock his rapist up? His money and eccentricities made him an easy target. And it's sad to me that people still want to smear his name when he's already dead. Links to the evidence? Saying there's evidence and not showing it is like me saying he is innocent with no proof. Because he has never been proven guilty. We know he is innocent because the boy came forward and said his parents forced him to lie and make a false allegation. Why? Because the parents wanted his money. Money bag. All his accusers were known grifters. Wired the hallway leading to his bedroom to alert him of anyone stepping through it. How is that evidence for him doing something bad? The thing I always had trouble with was the settlements. If someone were to assault my kids like that, there is no amount of money in the world that would make what he was accused of doing okay. The fact that there were settlements is highly suspicious to me. I am very sure he was an extremely weird guy, but this always looked like a shakedown to me. Because people aren't smart and didn't actually read and see he wasn't a pedophile. The default setting for most people is, if an adult had a child over. It's weird and probably pedo. People are too dumb to see past their hardwired views and see how MJ was. He was an abused kid who never got to live a childhood. He grew up becoming kind of out there, just as some of his siblings did. As an adult, free from his nasty parents, he would hang around kids because in his head, he was going to live his childhood as an adult, and also have other kids enjoy theirs. So in his mind, having children over was no different than when parents had other children over to see their kids. To note, he never forced kids over, abducted them, etc. Parents let them go over and over and over. But you know what happens when you're famous, rich and childlike in the head? Extortionists. Some of the kids who, supposedly, had claims had poor parents. So they seen MJ could make them some money but accused a man with a child's mind. It's easy money. Some kids were found out to be lying. In one case the mom made things because she had debt and wanted money. He was investigated by many people, such as the FBI, and there was no case. Just many lies from others, sadly. And a public too naive to look past, child with a man, to see it wasn't a pedophile with a child. It was a man who had a child mind. With a child. Children playing together. Most kids has no issue with him and refuted any wild claims that others made. Vitiligo on his penis. Not hard to guess it was a thing going by his skin. Easy claim to refute. Books of children. Okay? Lots of people have art books that have nude adults, children, etc. in it. It's called art. I mean, unless of course it's straight up child porn books, of course. Which it wasn't. Hallway wire? Could be any number of reasons. Maybe he was afraid at someone breaking in at night and coming to hurt him in the bedroom. Maybe he repressed fear from his dad abusing him. Like I said, it's easy to look at something and draw conclusions. Those who are close-minded often can't see the other side because they are blind. Fun fact: until I was in my late 20s, I had the neighborhood kids over all the time. Mind you, I lived at home because I am disabled. However, they knew my house had the fun stuff. Video games, water guns, laser tag stuff. I was the neighborhood entertainment guy. Granted, they never spent the night, because as an adult, that would be too weird for me to think about. Again, MJ wasn't a normal adult. Poor guy will be remembered because of some slander, lies, people wanting money, etc. Because if you actually research and look into the evidence beyond what people say, it's very clear that he was innocent and the accusations were largely a cash grab. Literally nothing that you've listed is a smoking gun for child abuse. While it sure seems likely MJ had an issue with children, to assume he was a pedophile without being able to absolutely prove it is incredibly unfair. Vilifying a man with one of the worst labels our society can muster. But no real proof. There is no doubt he formed intense relationships with boys if it was innocent that he saw himself at that age and how he lost his childhood. Jackson often spoke about being lonely, and the figures in his house was to help him feel he wasn't alone. I can deny he was strange, but documentaries explain his mental state and the effects his addiction had on his decisions and actions. After so much time, can we at least prove it? Are these pieces of evidence really evidence? Or just media being media? MJ was hated by the government. We didn't had SM back then to check his MSG to know for sure. So we couldn't know if he was or wasn't. The only thing that makes me question his innocence is the fact that he angered a lot of powerful people. He didn't go the normal route Hollywood people go, and so it's possible he's been set up especially after death, all this more info coming out. Or it's possible he was a perv. Mostly because he's never been judged guilty. And also because of all the stories of accusers that change their story, retract themselves on and on. He walked a dangerous path. Inviting children to sleep at his place with him only was stupid, and he was an easy target because of that.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.